Hi, I'm Conductor Larry Loh, and you are watching Eclectic Arts Media.
Well, welcome back to Seattle.
Oh, thanks.
It's interesting. We did the live stream interview back in 2020,
Yeah.
and after that interview, I actually went back and looked through my programs from the various events that you conducted here in Seattle, and I realized that I actually saw you for the very first event that I did here for movies was Jaws,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
you actually were.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, you know what's funny is here I've just been going through all these movie scores with this orchestra. Jaws, we did now the trilogy of the original Star Wars trilogy, and I'm sure there's more, but I do remember doing that Jaws because that's not. I mean, I was alive during that, but it's not like a movie I grew up with. So the audience, but for I think for a lot of the people in the audience, it was, and so they were reacting to things that it was so enlightening to me. I was very focused on the music, but it was that was pretty awesome.
That's yeah, see, that's cool because I was sitting around some people that had never seen the movie,
Oh,
and
okay,
so
yeah.
watching and hearing their reactions, and even after the filming, that was pretty good for 1970, whatever.
Right,
It's like
right, 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 right.
that.
That's funny. Yeah, it's like 1975, and it was this iconic movie, and obviously this amazing score. But if that's the first time you get to see it, live in performance, that's probably a pretty amazing experience for
It,
people.
it is, and like for me, that was the first time I got to see the Seattle Symphony perform a score live with a film, and I was hooked. As soon as that happened, I kept telling everybody, and that's why the next thing for me was A New Hope that she
Yep,
also conducted,
yep.
and I got family members to come here, and my uncle came with me,
Oh, that's awesome.
and so then I came to Empire, and then now we are 4 years later.
Yep, yep. I know there were some delays. We were going to do it a couple years ago. Several times it was rescheduled, and um, obviously, something got in the way of that between 2019 and now. But I'm really glad that we got to finish this trilogy this weekend, and this is about to do the last performance of the weekend right now.
Yeah, and I was looking back at social media is one of those pluses where it kind of gives you the memories in some cases. And I was seeing Empire is almost 4 years to the day. It was right at the end of June.
Right, right.
So I'm like, wow, and here we are on July 2nd.
Yeah, it
So
came up in my memories too. It was I did a selfie in front of the poster, and it just popped up not because of anything I was referencing now, but because it was this time of year. But yeah, that was awesome to do that movie, and doing Return of the Jedi is so thrilling.
well, and so let's talk about Jedi. Since you've been performing all three of the original trilogy, what challenges does Jedi's score present to you as a conductor?
Yeah, it's well, first it's longer, so sheer number of notes and I think endurance is a factor, especially in the second half. The usually, and I just have the scores here. Usually, I'll have a book for the first half and a book for the second, and both are spiral bound into a single volume for each half. And there's so much music, like just the second half, it's just about twice as thick as the first half. It You can't get a binding that will really work for all the music that's in that half. So I had my librarian at the last time that I did this put it in three different volumes just so it's manageable to turn the pages. It's an enormous amount of music. It's I mean, similar to Empire Strikes Back, which also had a lot compared to A New Hope, which is more, I think, standard. There are these breaks where we're not playing. In Return of the Jedi, the second half is continuous. The orchestra barely stops, and so it's challenging from that standpoint. It's challenging from how fast a lot of the music is, that the orchestra has to just keep up with the tempos. But they're doing a fantastic job. Seattle Symphony is just amazing. So it's actually a lot of fun now that we've gotten the rehearsals done, and for sure now on Sunday here we've had three performances already. So this is a really well-oiled machine. We're ready to go.
Awesome. That's kind of why I picked Sunday
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
come.
It's like the fourth performance, and
Yeah.
we're really locked in.
They'll have worked the kinks out the first performance of
Yeah,
the two, second and third one. They'll be kind of locked in. The fourth one, they'll be almost coasting in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. I think in terms of, the unexpected, all those X factors when orchestras are performing for a certain number of times under the feeling of performing, which is different than rehearsing. It's a lot more pressure. We no longer have that feeling of what's going to happen in a live performance. We've experienced it a couple times, and now, we come into it feeling more confident.
That makes sense. It's kind of like when my music duo used to perform live. If we had some new songs we were doing, first couple of performances, kind of shaky,
Right,
kind of
right,
trying to
right.
work things out. And then once it's started getting good to you, or if we got a certain reaction from the audience, we're like, oh, we got to
Right.
keep doing that song. The other ones maybe we'll work on some other
Right,
time,
right,
but
right.
that one we'll keep putting it in the set list.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I think the thing here, obviously Seattle Symphony is such an incredible orchestra. The first performance was magnificent. It was perfection. It was amazing. And it's more kind of like the mental energy that we have. We're going in with each time just knowing how it feels to do it. But you would never know if you went to the first performance that it was the first, because they're so good.
Okay, well, and that kind of brings up a question that I had that when we did the interview back in 2020, you talked about, especially when you have a film that you have to synchronize the score obviously to it. You can't be like going faster or slower. You got to make sure it's like right on point
Right.
with everything. So what are there challenges then as a conductor where you're trying to just make sure that you bring John Williams' score to life? Or are you trying to do things maybe a little bit subtly different? Or how does that kind of work for your take?
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's this whole debate in the conducting and orchestra performance world about how to approach doing concerts like this that have, we have different things that can keep us with the original musical interpretation. So to answer the first part of the question, we're sticking with the original performance and replicating it as best we can. And we're using a number of tools on our that are given to us by Disney concerts, which are a screen for me that shows exactly where we are, and it has these streamers and punches that show when we get to this point we should be at this downbeat. And then on top of that, there's a click track that we have that's like a metronome that has variable tempos that line up with the original interpretation. And usually I will have that in my ear. Like, I remember actually with Jaws, I didn't even use that. I just used the screen because that one somehow was easier. And I've never done any John Williams score where the orchestra also had the click, but this orchestra does that all the time. So I wanted to try it, and it's been a breeze. Like, they play so naturally. They still go with me, but we're all referencing the same pulse that's in our ear, and using that as we're a little bit ahead or we're a little bit behind, and lining it up, but then also playing as musical within those boundaries as we can.
Interesting. I know a lot of bands use clicks, and
Yeah.
nowadays they're also using backing tracks and other kinds of things.
Right. So they have to have the click. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had a chance where you performed with a symphony where the click kind of malfunctioned at all?
Oh yeah. Yep. I was just in Calgary doing Black Panther just like 2 months ago, and the percussion, the talking drum musician Masamba Job, as well as various members of the brass, they all had the click, and I had the click, and my click died about in the last like 10-15 minutes. It just died. So I no longer had the click, but they all did, and I was just using the screen, which has a little more wiggle room. So I'm sure the people in the orchestra were able to notice that my beat was not exactly where they're hearing the click. So that, that is a risk. And then the click came back, so then it was fine. But it was like a very weird 3 or 4 minutes where I was just going with the screen and not having the click because it had malfunctioned, lost the signal, or I'm not sure exactly what happened, some conflicting frequency or whatever. But yeah, I mean, once you lose that, then then there are other contingency. We have the screen, and then we have just what the action on on the movie, all these other things that can help us. But that's as close as I got to that kind of malfunction. And here I have a wireless click pack, a battery, wireless frequency to the click, but I also have a hardwired. If that one fails, I can plug into that one. So it's we do have a backup here.
Okay, and I just kind of thought off the top of my head when we were talking about possible malfunctions. It kind of begs the question: have you ever had a problem when the screen disappeared on you?
I haven't had that problem.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that would be if I still had the click, I'd be probably okay. The screen confirms which beat we're on exactly when, and all of that information is there. Is just kind of double checking all the time. But that hasn't happened, and it would be unpleasant, but I think we would be okay.
Yeah, we all professionals. So
Yeah. We'll survive.
Yeah, and you're performing live, so you kind of know, things can happen every now and then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is a very there are so many factors, so many variables that anything can go wrong at any moment. That's what makes live performance a certain kind of feeling. But we have these amazing professionals, and we'll be great.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things I was telling somebody else about trying to get them to come here. It's like, look, if you're kind of not liking how, say, rock or pop music has been doing this whole backing track debate's been going on. It's like, you go see a symphony, they're playing that.
Yeah.
There's no backing track of a violin or the cello or something.
Exactly. All that music is gone. That was in the original film. It's removed. We just have sound effects, dialogue, and the orchestra's playing all the music, and it's amazing. I had a person comment on a post on my Facebook page where they've gone to see all three of the trilogy like you. This is how they've been seeing the films as a family, or re-seeing them in the case of the parents. And they were saying for the parents, they're hearing things in these performances that they've not heard before, because the music is kind of at the front of the stage. And so it's for longtime fans, it's an amazing experience because it's different. It is a live performance of that music.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, for someone who's grew up with the film, saw them in the theater when I was a kid, the first time I saw A New Hope perform this way, it was like a brand new version, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I can't recommend it enough to see something like this when it's done, especially when you're conducting it too.
Oh, well, for me, just as a kid who also grew up with these movies, I could only dream at that point. I couldn't have dreamed of a scenario where I would be doing something like what I'm doing. It's so fun. I know the music as a fan, and then to be able to then take my professional experience and then work with an orchestra of this level to bring the score to life is something I could never have imagined, dreamed in a million years that I would be standing on that podium, and it is so fun.
Well, to kind of wrap this up, as a conductor with the original trilogy, do you have one that's a favorite as a conductor, not as a fan?
Let's see. Well, doing the original movie, A New Hope, has so many iconic themes that are heard for the first time. Luke with the twin suns, Tatooine, that sunset with the horn solo. That's the first time we hear that Force theme in that way, and that's incredibly iconic and amazing to experience as a performer. So I guess I would say A New Hope. It has the least amount of, I think, tempo stress and endurance stress, and is very manageable in that way. But there's something thrilling about performing, Return of the Jedi, just because of the kind of Olympic feat of performing it and getting to the end, playing all those notes. The orchestra is just firing on all cylinders. They sound incredible, and so there's a thrill in that's I think equal to the nostalgic thrill that I feel with A New Hope.
Okay. And if you could be any Star Wars character in a movie or a television show, what would you pick? Or
Well,
who would you pick?
Oh, that's funny. Well, so I have a brother, and when we were kids and we would play Star Wars, I would be Luke and he would be Han, and I'm not sure how we came to that. We just kind of gravitated towards those. But I would love to. I would switch to Han at this point. Just I find him. The way Harrison Ford plays this character, and especially in this film, it's hilarious, and he has all these incredible, just perfect lines that make the audience laugh. And I think I relate more to him than to Luke. And so I guess I would say Han Solo, but there's so many great characters.
That is true. It's hard to pick just one. And the last question would be, what do you have coming up? What other kind of, where's life going to be taking you as a conductor?
Well, this week I'm going back home to Syracuse. I'll be doing outdoor concerts with the orchestra where I'm music director to lots of patrons and free concerts. Then I'll be heading to Shippensburg, Pennsylvania for a festival where I'm doing a concert with violinist Sarah Chang, and that features Rachmaninoff's symphonic dances on the second half, so like a more standard classical program. And then coming up after that, Princess Bride in concert in Chautauqua, and then Amadeus in concert in Dallas. So some pretty interesting films that are new. I'm doing those. So Princess Bride I've done before, but Amadeus I haven't, and we're doing the Polar Express in December as well. So those are both going to be brand new movies for me that I look forward to participating. Especially I think the Mozart, the Amadeus will be a really interesting concert because it's this classical music with a chorus, and in this case the scenes that have opera like Magic Flute, in that there's a soprano singing on the screen, and that singing is retained, and we are matching, we're accompanying that. So that's going to be an interesting challenge, and I think a lot of fun.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun. You're going to be busy.
Yeah, busy.
Well, Maestro, thank you so much for taking the time, and it's so great to meet you in person.
Yeah,
finally.
I know, yeah.
And I'm so glad you came back to Seattle. I'm so looking forward to the movie in about another hour or so.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.